Hello Classic Crew, and welcome to today's video where I'll be answering my subscribers' interview questions. So I have a Substack newsletter, and if you are a premium subscriber, you can submit content pitches. And I have content pitch contests once a month where I will take one of your ideas and make it into a video. So congratulations, Blair, for submitting the idea for today's video. She said she would love to see one of my subscribers interview me. So I thought what I would do is I would ask on Instagram, if you are interviewing me, what questions would you ask? So I'm going to be basically being interviewed by you guys, which I think is really fun. It's a little bit different than an Ask Me Anything or Get to Know Me, because these questions are just a bit more targeted and as if I was being interviewed by you guys. So that's kind of cool, and I loved this idea. So thank you again to Blair for this idea. I'm really excited to get into today's video. If you're not already a subscriber for my Substack newsletter, make sure to head to the link in the description box and sign up so that you can get access to my exclusive podcast, as well as content pitch contests and my exclusive book club, as well as a bunch of other stuff. So make sure to head to that link. And I would love if you would consider subscribing to my YouTube channel and ringing that notification bell so that you can get notified every time I post a new video. So now let's get into it. The first question is, any fashion icons? Yes, I do have fashion icons. I've probably mentioned them on my channel before. I love Audrey Hepburn's style. I think Audrey Hepburn was one of the most classic looking women that I can picture. I mean, she always looks absolutely stunning, always looks put together. I just love her look, and I've always been inspired by her. In today's day and age, it would probably have to be Kate Middleton. I think that her fashion is so beautiful, feminine, modest, just totally something to emulate, and I love what she chooses to wear. Someone asked, pie or cake? Cake. The only kind of pie I like is pecan pie, chocolate pecan pie. That's the only kind I like. And if I'm not going to have that, then I'd rather just have cake. The next question is, what lessons from your opera theater training help you in your current career? I love this question. I think that's a great interview question. I would say that the idea of public speaking and performing and feeling very comfortable in front of the camera, that is all stuff that I really learned in my operatic career. I feel very comfortable up on stage. I also feel comfortable just sitting and chatting to you guys. Even though I'm alone in a room, it is different, but there's something performative about it, and I'm totally comfortable with that, and I really appreciate that. One of the things I think was huge for me was the idea of getting constructive criticism and getting criticism couched in like the worst way possible. So when you are in the opera world, a lot of the time people will give you criticism in the worst way. They're not going to try and say it in a nice way. They're just going to lay it right out there. And I think one of the things that teaches you is this person right? Can I take the kind of kernel of knowledge that they're sharing with me and separate it from the way they said it? Or is it not right? Is it incorrect? And I don't really have to incorporate it. And it really teaches you to be very good at separating the wheat from the chaff. And that's something as a YouTuber you have to be great at, because I get horrible comments every day, and I can see the ones that are just there to be mean. And if there's somebody who actually has a constructive thing to say, even if it's said in the worst way, then I can take that and think to myself, okay, maybe there is something there. Maybe I do need to improve. And then there are the criticisms that are just not true. So I am really happy that I've had that training of being able to hear real criticism because of how I was trained. If you could only teach your daughter one thing, what would it be? That's a great question. And I think it would be to respect herself. Now, I think a lot of the time nowadays we hear women talk about empowerment, and the idea of empowerment divorced from respecting yourself gives you these feminists who make really poor choices because they don't respect themselves and they don't even know how to respect themselves. So if I could only teach my daughter one thing, it would be respect yourself, respect your body, and in doing those things, you will get respect in return and you will get the best treatment from other people. And when I say respecting yourself, I think that kind of teaches a lot, because respecting your body means not having sex indiscriminately. It means wearing modest clothing so that people can get to know you before they get to know your body. Respecting yourself means you know how you should be treated, and that means that you'll make good choices. When you know that you have worth, when you know that you have worth because you are a child of God, then you won't let anyone else take advantage of you and you won't make bad decisions. At what point in your relationship with Jacob did you know he was the one? Well, we were talking about marriage kind of vaguely by the second weekend that we were together. But I would say that we said I love you a month after we started dating. And once you say I love you, in my mind, that's the right person. So we kind of knew quickly that we were going to end up together. I don't say I love you just frivolously. I say I love you to people who I believe there's a future with. So as soon as I said I love you, that's how I knew Jacob was the one. What women do you look up to? I guess there are a few different versions of that question. So there's the women in my life, my mother. I look up to her. I respect her. Then there are the women in history. The women in the Bible is what I usually consider and think of. I look up to Yael. I look up to Judith. I look up to, the foremothers, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel. I find the women in the Bible to be very inspiring. And even though this isn't a specific woman, the woman described as the woman of valor, that writing is one of my absolute favorites. And whenever I'm feeling lost, that's where I find inspiration. What do you think will be your approach to parenting? What values and skills will you instill? I love this question. Another great question. My approach to parenting is obviously something I'm going to have to share with my husband. Luckily, we are very much on the same page. We want to raise our children in a way that's going to make them the best versions of themselves and grow up to be really good members of society. I love the way Jordan Peterson talks about parenting. If you don't like your kid, why is anyone else going to like your kid? So something Jacob and I talk a lot about is we want to make sure that our kids are good and easy to be around. So we want to discipline them. We want to make sure that if they're acting out, we address it. We don't want to just allow them to kind of be a problem around other people. And we want to take responsibility for the raising of our children. We want to be very active in that role. As far as values and skills, those are obviously two very different things. Values, we obviously want to raise them with the values that we hold. So we're going to raise them Orthodox Jewish. We're going to raise them with good, strong moral values. That's very important to us. And as far as skills, we really want them to just develop the skills that come to them naturally. I would love to share music with them. I think that my husband would like to share weightlifting with them. That's something we've talked about, exercise so that they feel good physically. And we would like to teach them to read. We really want to limit as much as possible dependence on technology up until a point where they're really able to use it and not treat it as an addiction. So we're definitely not having iPads. We're definitely not going to depend on that as a form of entertainment for them. We're going to try to teach them to read from a young age so that they can entertain themselves that way, and then also just get them used to the idea of having playtime by themselves. Of course, this is all in theory, but that's what we would like to do. How has your comfort with being on camera and speaking publicly changed over time? I think you just get more and more comfortable in front of the camera. You figure out how you can edit. You figure out what you can do. You figure out kind of if you are being less than natural on camera. You kind of realize the quirks that you bring to camera when you aren't being totally natural, and you weed those out. And as far as public speaking, I think that that's going to change over time, more and more over time. So I really like public speaking and I enjoy it. I love giving speeches. If you are on a college campus, make sure to reach out to me. I'd love to speak for your campus. But I do think that it is something that will change over time. Do you actually read all the comments? Some of them are very dumb and aggressive. How do you deal with that? So I read as many of the comments as I can. On some videos, I have tens of thousands, so I really can't read all of those comments, but I do as much as I can. And the ones that are just stupid or aggressive, I'm actually pretty good at ignoring. I just kind of scroll past them. I get halfway through, realize that it's going to be something totally irrelevant to me, and I just keep scrolling. So that's how I do it, but I love communicating with my real subscribers in the comments. It's very important to me. So I make sure to make time for that. and it's something I enjoy, and I love hearing what you guys have to say. And one of the really cool things is that, I recognize your names. If you've been following me for a while and you've commented a lot, I know who you are. I've seen it a bunch of times, and I love that. And it's something that makes me feel really connected with you. How many children do you want? I used to say 3. Nowadays, I feel like 5, but as many as God gives us. How are you planning to balance family life with work life in the future? My policy is always that family life comes first. I will always put my husband and my children over my work, but I chose this career specifically so that I could be at home, so that I could spend time with my kids, and I did have flexibility. That was always the plan with this YouTube career. So that's the plan, is to continue to have flexibility so that I can be as available to my family as possible, but I can also do this job that I really love. Any tips for someone marrying quote unquote young, 23 and 25? Well, my husband and I got married at 24. I don't think that that's that young. I would say take the first year and just recognize that the first year is the hardest. I say this to everyone I know. There's this fantasy that the first year is the honeymoon phase, and it's just not real. The first year, there are honeymoon parts of it. It's lovely, but the first year of marriage is hard. You're getting used to each other. You're getting used to adjustments. And it takes a while to really figure that out. And by year 2, you're going to realize how much easier things get. But the first year is not supposed to be smooth sailing. It's supposed to be kind of tricky. And just accept that and recognize that making such a big commitment, it's kind of hard for your brain to comprehend. So once you have kind of eased into that after a year, things do get easier. But it's not supposed to be simple and easy right off the bat. And I think we need to normalize that and say it's okay, it's normal, because I think a lot of people get scared and think that something must be wrong. There's nothing wrong. Is being Jewish different from being Christian? If so, what are those differences? So yes and no. Their basic moral underpinnings are very similar, right? It's Judeo-Christianity. We share that base. And that, makes things easier. The difference is just that we have very strict practices. And that means that from a fundamental day-to-day basis, our days are going to look different. We keep Sabbath, and when we keep Sabbath, we don't use electricity. We are very strict about what we can and cannot do. And then we have holidays throughout the year that have similar laws. And those kind of fundamental day-to-day things look different. So that's kind of, I would say, probably the biggest difference between how Judaism and Christianity are practiced. Do you plan on writing a book in the future? If so, what would you write about? I would love to write a book. I would probably talk about the same stuff I talk about on my channel, but in a book form. I'd love to keep talking about how to be classic. I think that this is something that is kind of an endless treasure trove of topics. And I personally love guides. I love lists. I love being taught how to be a feminine woman. Like, I will subscribe to channels like that just because I think that it's fun and fascinating and things I can incorporate into my day-to-day. And I'm a very practical person. I like to see practical things that I can do and add to my day to make myself more of a woman, more womanly. And I would love to share that. I would love to use my expertise on how to be classic and share it with all of you guys. That's what I would love to do. I have a million ideas for books. I also just love writing, so I could probably write on a lot of different things, but that's at least what I would like to start with. What do you have to say to your left-leaning viewers and supporters? Well, first of all, thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting me from the other side of the aisle. I think that's really cool. And I think it's really great to just have the open lines of communication, have an ability to talk with people who disagree with and hear different ideas. And so continuing to hear a voice that's different than maybe everything else you're hearing, continuing to engage with that is just important. And I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad you feel welcome. What do you do when you feel anxiety or discouraged? So those are two very different emotions. When I feel anxiety, there are two ways that I can go about things. One is just do something. Just do something that gets you out of your head. that helps a lot because anxiety is very much in your head and it makes you feel like you are trapped. But going out and doing something physical, exercising, doing an activity, that can really help. The other thing you can do if I can tell that the anxiety is situational is explore where it's coming from. So if it's not just free-floating anxiety, if it's anxiety that I can tell came from something, then I like to know why it's there. And then I can kind of delve into, okay, when did this start? Why is it happening? And try and address it really seriously. As far as being discouraged, I'm somebody who uses discouragement as an opportunity to build something new or improve. So if I'm feeling discouraged, the first thing I do is I make a list. I figure out, okay, what can I do to not feel discouraged and to feel excited about what I'm going to do next? And that has been super helpful to me because it makes every time I feel discouraged, it makes me feel excited about the next thing. So that is it for today's video. Thank you for interviewing me as my subscribers. I loved being interviewed by you all. I'd love to do more videos like this, and thank you again to Blair for suggesting this. It was a lot of fun. If you have any other questions for me, any other interview questions, leave them in the comments below. Also, let me know, what was your favorite question that I answered today? I'd love to hear. If you haven't already subscribed to my Substack, make sure that you do. It's classicallyabby.substack.com so you can access all of my exclusive content. And if you haven't already subscribed to my YouTube channel, go ahead and do it now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!